Hey, what is up, ONE&ALL Youth? I'm Joseph, one of the pastors on staff, and I'm joined here with Joey, one of the pastors on staff here as well. And Joey, you've been an awesome voice in this topic as we're going through the series called The Talk. And each week, Pastor Jeff's bringing a message. He's talking about sex, identity, and Jesus, and how it all kind of ties together. And if you talk about the two biggest topics in youth today, it's gender identity and sexual preference and mental health. Those are the kind of the two topics that they really kind of interested in and want to know more about. And I think when young people see the church, they see the church as not relevant and as not kind. And the sad part is, a lot of times they're right. I think the church has become so concerned with being right, they've just kind of thrown out loving, and a lot of times that they're not even right on a lot of things. And so how do you be loving and listening and being a non-anxious presence, especially talking about things? And so here in ONE&ALL Youth, we don't want any topic to be off limits. We want to talk about the difficult things and the things that they're kind of running into right now. And so sex kind of is everywhere in life. And I'll list off some stats just kind of about sex being everywhere in culture. These are stats Jeff gives this weekend in his message on porn. Porn sales bring in more revenue every year than the MLB, NBA, and NFL combined, which is over $100 billion. 75% of porn sites are free, 85% of young men, and nearly half of all women watch porn on a regular basis. It says the U.S. is the largest producer and exporter of pornography worldwide, and Hollywood releases 1,100 adult movies every year. And really the only reason I bring those stats up is just sex is everywhere in our culture. We run into it, and so how are we not talking about it in the church? And so I don't want any topic to be something that people are facing and that we're not having a conversation about it in the church. If it's anything that we're actually going on in real life, I want it to be something we bring into the church. So we talk a lot about identity, and I would love to hear some of your insights on how you would define identity and how you see identity, Joey.
Yeah, that's great. Because just me in particular, I'm somebody that fits nowhere, and as a result, I kind of fit everywhere. Because I'm from the East Coast, so you could probably hear that when I talk and open up my mouth. But I've been in California longer than I was on the East Coast, so nobody here thinks of me as Californian necessarily, even though that's like an identity.
Yeah.
The state that I'm from, and probably one of the first things that people notice when they hear me talk is like, oh, this guy's from the East, right? It's not like really part of my identity because I've been there for like a really long time. When I'm here in the United States, I seem very Italian.
Yeah.
Okay. When I'm in Italy with my family, I'm the American.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm definitely the Christian because I'm a clergy. I'm a man of the cloth.
Yeah.
When I'm here, I'm usually the one that's like, man, you identify well with the unchurched.
Yeah.
So it's just, what is my identity, right?
Yeah.
My identity is I'm made in the image of God.
Yeah.
First and foremost, and not just first, absolute. And so being that, you, myself, we're made in the image of God. That's what fuels that unique brand of fabulous.
Yeah.
That is Joey Versace, that is Joseph Grabowski, right? First and foremost. And so what does that look like when I'm being an East Coast image of God, like whatever, like it's gonna look different in different places, but my identity is not in any of those tribes. My identity is my created image, which is the image of God. That doesn't change. That's eternal. Mm-hmm. That's immortal. That's my created purpose.
A lot of people see identity as fluid. So I mentioned earlier the idea that I'm someone who's sitting in a chair right now, and I identify as someone who's sitting in a chair. So when I stand up, I'm no longer someone who's sitting in the chair. And so I think when we talk about identity in the church, we're talking about foundationally, what is my unchanging identity?
What is my most important earthly identity? It's husband and father. Yeah. What would happen to me if there was a terrible accident and my wife and children, their car, they were gone?
Yeah.
Like, I'm neither of those things anymore. I'm neither husband nor father.
Yeah.
And so there are these categories that are so important, and we play these roles and move those out because those really do matter and impact our day-to-day life.
Yeah.
That cannot be my North Star that just determines this is who I am, this is what my life is about, because those things are all fragile.
Yeah.
None of them are permanent.
Yeah.
They're all gifts from God that could be tainted, that could be great, whatever.
Yeah.
These are categories.
Yeah.
Pastor, job, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
The only immortal, stable, lasting thing is my identity as being made in the image of God.
Yeah. And so on that kind of same vein of thinking, Joey, when we start talking about sexual identity, sexual preference, how does sexual preference and gender identity now tie into that idea of identity that you were talking about just then.
Yeah. It is one of our strongest tribes that we have in society. And so as people, God's wired us for community, and so we're always looking for a tribe. There are all these different tribes that are so important to us. You know, scripturally, we have that also. There's the Gentile tribe, there's the Israelite tribe. Sexuality is one of those. That's become a tribe, it's become a community, and there's reasons as to how this society formed. When my tribe is threatened, I double down, I identify with it, it becomes who I am, it's us now, it's us. And so that does become very all-consuming. Think about that with any marginalized group throughout history.
Well, it sounds like you're making the difference between identity and tribe is really what you're going at right now. And so
that's good.
Yeah.
I'll go to that. And so once I've identified so deeply with my community, with my tribe, it can actually supplant and become my identity.
Yeah, your unchanging identity. Like this is, in my mind, this is permanently true in every area, no matter what.
Yes.
What does it mean to actually be human in the eyes of God?
Oh, that's to be human in the eyes of God. That's so well phrased. Because often my image of human, a lot of people's image of human, is this idea of a married couple, right? Which does feed into the marriage myth. And I love marriage is great. We're going to hear a lot about it during this season of how great it is, et cetera, et cetera. Marriage is not the be-all, end-all. If it was, Jesus would have been married. He was single. The Apostle Paul was single. There are plenty of people who were single, and the Christ life can be lived out fully and completely through singleness. It is always and has always been about, first and foremost, living out your identity as a follower of the Lord. You don't need a spouse for that. And so the goal of my life, of living out my image, the purpose of me being made in God's image, is about my relationship with God. It has nothing to do with whether or not I ever get married.
Jeff, in his message, said, how did "this is how I am" become "this is who I am"? And Jeff, identified identity as the state or fact of remaining the same as under varying aspects or conditions. He said, my emotions and my feelings are always changing. Does that mean my identity is always changing? And he would answer, no. But that question, how did "this is how I am" become "this is who I am"? Can you kind of speak to that?
Yeah. If I'm understanding correctly, we're talking about the difference of how I am versus who I am, right? Who I am being my identity. Where I see this most consistently in my life is who I am is someone made in the image of God. How I am is someone who is incurably genetically ill. I can't change that. It has huge ramifications on my life. And there are those who've accused me of not having enough faith to shrug it off. And so I've seen a defect, a deficit in my faith profile. Otherwise, it would be this way. And it's solely to carry. I can't take light exposure, hence the glasses. I got to shave every day because I got to do chemical peeling creams and everything. I am not identified in my identity by my genetic illness. That's a part of my life that'll influence me forever. It's not something I'm ashamed of. It's not something I love. I would prefer to not have it. Whatever. My identity is not in my sexuality. It's not as a straight married guy. It's not as someone who is genetically incurably ill. Marriage can change. My health condition at present cannot. My condition with Jesus, my identity as being made in the image of God, is unchangeable. Even if I walked away from my relationship with Jesus, my identity as being made in the image of God stays. I have no ability to change that. It's what I was created for and what I was created to be. The nature of this is sexuality. That's important. Everything has to come to the authority of Christ. Start somewhere. Okay? Just meaning that if my sexual identity brought me into conflict with how I understand Jesus' parameters around romantic relationships to be, just say, okay, that tension exists. All right, that's important. I can't be paralyzed by that. That has my attention. Jesus cares about my greed. So focus on my generosity. Start growing. Okay, if my issue is forgiveness,
Yeah.
start to forgive.
Yeah.
Go in that direction. There's plenty of people who are living within God's romantic parameters as we understand them,
Yeah.
who are compromising love God, love others in a plethora of ways.
Yeah.
There's always a way to pursue Christ-likeness.
Yeah.
Pursue Christ-likeness.
Yeah.
So this area right now, I'm not settled on. It's okay. I'm settled on this. This matters. This has to be dealt with.
Yeah.
Today, tomorrow, whatever. There's not an order that I start somewhere and
good.
grow in Christ-likeness, because that's central to what your identity is, far above and beyond whatever my orientation perhaps might be.
Joey, thanks again for sitting down and having this conversation on this topic. And what we really want is to give you as youth permission to talk about it. We live in a world full of information with a lack of community. And so we really just want to go on this journey of discussing it and having a conversation and processing it together. And so I want to give you as youth the permission to open up and ask questions and to wrestle with things. That's really our goal and our heart over these next few weeks.